Prison. Most of us will never see the inside of one. However, for those who do, it can be a time filled with everything from danger to extreme boredom. Unsurprisingly, this has led to a number of famous breakout attempts, from wartime prison camps to foreign facilities to iconic jails. It turns out no matter where you lock someone up, they are bound to try their hand at an escape. Speaking of getting locked up, be sure to lock yourself to our channel by subscribing if you haven't already. Leave us a like and be sure to comment because we are really having fun giving shoutouts to our loyal viewers. John Dillinger. Back in the 1930s, you couldn't discuss anything about crime and gangsters without bringing up the infamous John Dillinger. The Depression-era crook made his name thanks to the numerous robberies he was involved in. In and out of jail, Dillinger knew the system well and clearly wasn't intimidated by the guards or the seemingly hopeless situation of getting locked up. For instance, in 1933, he escaped from an Ohio prison after having guns smuggled in. However, the real daring escape took place while Dillinger was being held at the Crown Point Jail in Indiana in 1934. Never one to sit idly by and serve his time, this gangster hatched a plan to break out of what was said to be an escape-proof facility. After whittling a fake gun from a piece of wood, Dillinger bluffed the guards and locked a bunch of them up. To rub it in, he even stole the sheriff's car for his getaway. Guards later said the gun was real, but the FBI disagrees, and we think that was just an excuse to save face. The Greek escape. Some say that Vasilis Pelokostas was like a modern-day Robin Hood. Along with his brother Nikos, he would rob from the banks and allegedly share the stolen goods with Greece's poorer population. Needless to say, the authorities were having none of this, and did their best Sheriff of Nottingham impressions to track him down. Once arrested and jailed in Athens, the case was closed. Or was it? In 2006, Vasilis took part in his first escape when a helicopter commandeered by his brother landed in the prison yard and picked him up. Guards did nothing, as they actually believed it was a prison inspector coming to visit, and not a Hollywood-style escape. Eventually, caught again, Vasilis took part in a second escape in 2009. Having not learned their lesson, guards watched as yet again a helicopter came in over the prison and lowered a rope ladder for Vasilis to climb. The helicopter got away and everyone was left embarrassed a second time around. Fortunately for authorities, this Robin Hood of Greece was rearrested several months later. Billy Hayes. We all know that if you try and smuggle illegal substances and get caught, then you're going to jail. Get caught doing that in a foreign country and the sentence can be pretty darn harsh. Billy Hayes found this out while trying to smuggle some illicit substances out of Istanbul, Turkey in 1970. Originally handed a 4-year sentence, Hayes was understandably concerned when authorities suddenly upped that to life in prison. Eventually they dropped it to 30 years and transferred him to the island prison of İmralı. But the American wasn't having any of that. Considered Turkey's version of Alcatraz, prisoners were allowed a little more freedom to move about, because who would possibly be foolish enough to escape from an island? In October 1975, he used the cover of darkness to swim out to a rowboat that had been tethered up. From there, he rowed for 8 hours to get to shore. Disguising himself as a Turk, he worked his way to Greece, where he surrendered to the American consulate. It's quite a story, which is why Hayes actually turned it into a book and then a movie. Alfie Hines. This British jewel thief would eventually join Mensa, the organization for geniuses. Although between his early years and his Mensa days, Alfie Hines gained a bit of notoriety. Yes, he was infamous for his thieving ways. However, what made even bigger news was his ability to escape from prison. In fact, Hines escaped 3 times and became quite a headache for officials to deal with. In 1953, he was imprisoned in Nottingham prison for stealing jewels. Hines was reportedly able to memorize the shape of the cell door keys and made replicas for himself. He then got over the 20-foot-high wall and earned the nickname Houdini Hines. Captured, he returned to prison but hatched another escape plan. This one involved charging the commissioner with an illegal arrest. On his court day, Hines had friends leave a lock in the bathroom. Convincing the guards he needed to use the facilities, he pushed them in and locked the stall door. Then he just walked out of the court. Captured yet again, he escaped from prison a 3rd time and was eventually released for good in the mid-60s. His flair for escaping jail made him a bit of a minor celebrity until his passing in 1991. It's time for us to go into lockdown and give a shout out to one of our great viewers. Today we'd like to mention Prachet Agarwal, who says that he loves the research that goes into these videos. They make it so entertaining. I love this channel. Hey Prachet, thanks so much for that awesome compliment. We hope we keep entertaining you with all our future releases. The Maze Escape. From the 1970s to 2000, the Maze prison in Northern Ireland was known to hold some of the most dangerous and notorious IRA members. Often described as one of the most escape-proof prisons in Europe, it was a rather intimidating facility. This didn't dissuade the prison's inmates from hatching an ambitious escape plan. It began with prisoners Jerry Kelly and Bobby Story getting positions as orderlies in the prison hospital. This allowed them to see the prison's detail and weaknesses more closely, as well as providing an opportunity to smuggle in weapons. On September 25, 1983, the inmates used their weapons to take some of the guards hostage. From there, they took over a cell block without any alarm being raised. Commandeering a delivery truck, a group then took over a gatehouse, and the break was on. By the time the guards had re-established control over the maze, over 36 IRA prisoners had escaped. In all the commotion, only one guard had lost their life after suffering a heart attack. To date, it stands as the largest prison break in UK history. The Bluff. Charles Victor Thompson found himself in jail for taking the lives of two people. In 2005, he decided he had had enough of life behind bars and crafted a fairly straightforward plan to escape. First, he smuggled in some civilian clothes, because wearing a bright orange jumpsuit kinda makes it hard to blend in on the outside. Then he scheduled a meeting with his lawyer. When the lawyer got up and left the room, Thompson quickly removed his handcuffs thanks to a key that he had obtained. He then changed into civilian clothes, putting on an air of confidence. Thompson got up and walked out of the prison. At the guard post, he calmly answered several questions. When asked for ID, he flashed his prisoner ID card. Incredibly, the guard looked at it and said that he had never seen that kind of ID before. With that, he left the prison and hopped on a boxcar to freedom. Fortunately, he was recaptured a few days later. But aren't you glad prison security is so dang tight? Ugh. The Great Escape. Okay, so this one doesn't involve any one criminal. In fact, it doesn't involve criminals at all, just prisoners in a German military camp who launched one of the greatest escapes ever documented. At prison camp Stalag Luft 3, airmen who had been shot down over Europe were locked up by the Germans. However, RAF pilot Roger Bushell devised a plan in March 1943 to break out of the camp. Hundreds of prisoners worked together to dig tunnels, forge papers, and gather civilian clothing for the escape attempt. A year later, the plan went into action. Despite hoping to get 200 prisoners out of the camp using underground tunnels, various problems meant only 76 got out before guards noticed something was up. In the end, 73 were recaptured, but 3 were able to reach freedom by getting to Sweden or Spain. Pascal Payet. His escape may not have been as grand and intricate as the prisoners of Stalag Luft 3, but Pascal Payet definitely made headlines with his breakout attempt. Arrested and jailed in 1999, Payet decided jail life didn't agree with him, so he escaped by way of a hijacked helicopter. Captured, he was returned to prison, where in 2003, he escaped by helicopter yet again. Captured again, he was one of the most closely watched prisoners in the French system. In fact, he was never kept at one prison for more than 6 months to prevent any more helicopter-related escapes. It didn't work. On Bastille Day 2007, 4 armed men took a helicopter and raided the prison in the town of Grasse, where Payet was being held. The crew actually broke into the heavily guarded prison, freed their man, and then made their Hollywood-style escape. 2 months later, he was captured yet again. While he's currently in a French prison, we're not sure which one, because authorities have kept that secret, and we think we understand why. Frank Abagnale. You know when Hollywood makes a movie about your criminal past that you are definitely a big-time criminal. Frank Abagnale Jr. falls into this category. You likely know him best from the movie Catch Me If You Can, starring Leonardo DiCaprio. Having lived quite the life on the run, Abagnale was caught and transported to an Atlanta prison in 1971. During the transfer, Abagnale found out that the sheriff didn't have the right papers and wasn't sure of his identity. The quick-thinking convict used the moment to convince the guard that he was actually a prison inspector going undercover to assess the Atlanta prison. While he used that story on the guards, Abagnale contacted a friend outside and had them create fake FBI and prison inspector cards. Once smuggled in, he told the guards he needed to get in touch with his FBI contact and handed them the cards. When the prison staff phoned the number, Abagnale's friend picked up and convinced the guards she needed to debrief him outside the prison. Just like that, the clever crook walked right out of jail. Alcatraz. No discussion of prison breaks would be complete without mention of the legendary and infamous Alcatraz Island. It seems like whenever we compare a prison or fortress to something, this now closed facility is the standard. For 29 years until 1963, the Rock earned a reputation as inescapable. That's why the US put its toughest and scariest criminals, prisoners we like to think look like this, behind bars here. In fact, the official record states that no convict ever successfully escaped to the mainland. We think that's a bit of a gray area, actually. You see, on June 12, 1962, Frank Morris, John Anglin, and his brother Clarence made headlines. Guards doing the morning rounds found the 3 were not in their cells. Instead, the prisoners had left plaster dummy heads in their beds. Investigation later revealed the 3 had spent several months developing their plan.